Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your host, Keith Varney.
We'll do it live.
Out of practice.
And Mike and Deglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
I know it's been bugging you because it's been bugging me, but I leveled my shelves.
Out of practice.
Oh, wait till I tell Keith what I found wrong with him today.
Uh-oh.
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast in which me, Keith Varney, discuss David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice, with my old buddy, Mike and Deglio. That's him. This week, we are up to Season 7, Episode 15, Choirboys. So, how's it going, my fellow choir boy? Did you do a lot of chorus and choir in middle school and high school?
I definitely did in middle school. I did the show choir. In fact, a shout out to Mrs. Nutter, who I've just found out recently. She was my 6th grade show choir instructor, whatever, coach. And she's retiring this year after many years. So best wishes. She also, this is
Cheers
actually
to
ties in.
Mrs. Nutter.
Yeah, here's she also, what the hell was that? That was the Xbox sound. I don't, like,
It was
loud
the
in my
Xbox.
ear. Did
I
you hear
heard
it too?
No, I totally heard it too. My Xbox turns on randomly. I think it's haunted.
My app, the Xbox app is not on.
It's like, you haven't played me in a while.
That was weird. This episode not brought to you by Xbox, though it is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, Miss Nutter was the first person to play Sweeney Todd for us in class. And the filmed tour version with Lansbury and Len Carew.
George Hearn.
George Hearn.
Hearn.
Right. Yes, because he took over in the tour.
One of the few times I've ever truly been starstruck was I was riding an elevator backstage with George Hearn, and I was like, Sweetie Todd.
Yeah,
It was pretty funny.
And then you think, so, you know, he's not very young when he does that tour, when you watch it. I think it was filmed in, what,
1982?
Yeah.
81,
Anyway,
wasn't it?
and then you watch the San Francisco concert version.
Right.
With, who does is it Patty? That does
It's Patty. Yeah.
And he was there was an opera guy, I can't remember his name, who was.
Yes, it was going to be Bryn Terfel.
Yeah, who was supposed to be starring in that, and then something happened, and so they got George Hearn, who relearned the whole score on very short notice.
In like 2 days. He's like, okay.
And it's all coming back to me now. He's still excellent.
Freaking
In fact,
amazing.
that performance there's more joy to it because you can see he's not covered in makeup like he is in the tour.
Right,
so you can kind of
right.
see his performance more. You should watch both if you haven't. If you're not.
So cool. And really nice guy too.
Oh, that's cool to know.
Now he's just like this distinguished older gentleman who's like a sweet dude who was very kind with me when I made an ass of myself. It was it's great. It's great. Anyway.
So just to answer your question, yes. Keith, what about you? You were a choir guy too?
Oh, I was definitely a choir guy. Yeah. It was chorus in Vermont, so I started in middle school. I was the boy soprano in 5th grade, and I sang the solo in Somewhere Out There Beneath the Velvet Light. Yeah, it was really cute. It's on video somewhere. And then in 6th grade, I was a boy soprano. And then in 7th grade, I was a boy soprano. And then in 8th grade, I was still basically a soprano, but I think our choir teacher took mercy on me And yeah, we're gonna put him on the tenor track. It's just the soprano line, just in the same octave. So,
Man, I wish this was a different podcast, Keith. That reminds me. Speaking of boy sopranos, I sang at this wedding on Saturday. The Schmersey Boys did a wedding in Garfield, not far from you actually, Garfield, New Jersey. I don't think so, anyway.
I have no idea where it is.
This place called the Venetian. It was this like gaudy place. But anyway, it's a whole story, but it has literally no tie to this podcast. So forget it.
Wow.
I'm very tired still, though. It was a long night. So
we're like episode 200, and that's our transition.
Let's talk about kitty cats. What do you say?
Yes, let's do it in a segment we call
We have tried for years to make this podcast
together
a success.
Now. We failed.
It's time to give the world what it wants. Meow, meow. Hot cat content. Meow, meow. Hot cat content. Meow, meow. Hot cat content.
Yes, indeed. So this week, poor Charlie has had a cold, which is a bummer. It's one of those things when you get a shelter cat and he's been inside for a while, and they get, technically it's feline herpes, which is basically they get colds, they get sinus infections, which are a little alarming because your poor cat is like sneezing and he's got the watery eye, and it's a bummer, but we've stayed on top of it. I think we mentioned it last week. He wasn't feeling well. So we talked to the vet yesterday, and he's doing just fine and feeling better, but I felt bad for him. So I decided to make him his own little mini man cave here in the office, because I have one. He deserves one himself. And we had a little cutout in the wall, and there's a box that goes into the other half of the basement where the previous owners had their sound system. They had like a whole surround system. This was a movie theater downstairs before. And so it's just an empty box, and it's been sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. So, of course, I turned it into Charlie's own mini cat cave. So there he is. There's the box cut out in the wall. So, and he's got don't worry, he's got a poster of Phil Simms, just like his dad. And on the right there, he has his flat screen TV, because that's a very important part. So he's in there. He loves it. He went in there when I set it up to look at it and has not left. So
yeah.
He's hanging out in his little house. He's on the mend, but feeling better.
Keith, I think I speak for all of our viewer when I say I'm not sure which is cuter, Charlie in his little man cave or the little man cave you built for Charlie. This is like the cutest thing I've ever seen Keith do.
And don't worry, there are LED lights in his room there, so he can be any color he wants, and turn them off when it's time to go to sleep. So
that's amazing, Keith. You may recognize that behind me something is missing that was there. Last week.
Oh, the tree was there last week. So what happened to the tree? What is the latest in the tree saga?
All right, so fake tree went onto the porch. So now we have our actual Christmas tree on the porch.
On the porch!
That we can see through the sliding door, so it's there. It's festive. And then our real tree, our 4-footer, was behind me. And and it was doing great. We decorated it. It looked wonderful, you saw. Half of the lights burnt out. And then we recognized, so this room is very dry. Very, 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 very dry.
Yeah.
And I hang my guitars on the wall. Now, usually during the winter, I will put my guitars away because guitars want to be between like 45 and 55 degree humidity or a percent humidity. It's hard to keep that in here. So I bought a really nice humidifier.
Great.
The water here in Pennsylvania is so hard and full of crap that when you run the humidifier, it just puts a white dust everywhere. So my entire office was covered in a white dust. It looked like a Coke den. So it's like you need to use distilled water, but like to fill a 5-gallon thing every day with distilled water is just like not cost effective. So I'm like, whatever, I'm going to put my guitars in the cases and forget it's going to be dry. Apparently, it's so dry that it instantly killed this Christmas tree. I mean, like needles falling off, hang an ornament. It was like, so we were like, you know what? Sometimes you got to admit when you've lost. we ordered another fake Christmas tree with the built-in lights on Amazon, and we're just sometimes you just got to wave the flag, buddy.
No. Well, next year you're just going to decorate one of the trees outside the terrace. So you just have to sit in the living room, figure out what part of the tree you can see, and just decorate that part of it.
Yeah. So
great.
Anyway, so the cat's Charlie's sick. My cat's gonna be sick because he ate a tree, and there we go.
Well, there it is. Good fun with the cats. And you sent me a picture of all three of them sleeping together, which was
it's slow but sure. I told Jen eventually it's gonna happen.
It's exciting. I'm so happy about that. Well, you know what our viewers and listener would like to be happy about, and that is us moving forward to a segment we call
Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas.
Ladies and gentlemen, before Keith even begins, something's been bothering me.
What's that?
Every week I'm doing the YouTubes.
Yes.
And I put the little timestamps at the bottom because one week I didn't do the timestamps and someone called me on it.
Yeah, Phoenix.
And there's always a red squiggle. And I'm wondering why there's a red squiggle. And I realized it last week. It's not me that there's a red squiggle. You know, red squiggle means spelled wrong.
Yeah.
I've been copying the spelling of subpoenas from you, Keith. And it is spelled very wrong here. And it has been wrong every week. In perpetuity of season 7.
Yes.
So.
That is so me.
No, it's both of us because yes, you spelled it wrong, but I use the spell check and every week enter the correct spelling of subpoenas on YouTube, but never realize that the reason I'm spelling it wrong initially is because it's wrong here.
Not E-O. Yeah.
And no one has noticed that.
I think because no one is watching. It's like
the correlation's very clear.
If a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? If you misspell something no one reads, is it really misspelled?
That's fair. Well, I think the fairer answer to that question is, if you misspell something that no one reads and thus is it spelled wrong, do you even have to fix it?
Oh, I'm not fixing it. Are you kidding? We were like 7 episodes from the end of the season. No, we are riding this out.
Wait till we share the surprise about the final season, too.
we are committed to this. Oh, my goodness. Well, and that is so me. Because I'm the type of guy who's going to work so hard on all the layouts and the graphics and the colors and the layers.
The design is what's important. Yep.
The design is what's important to me. And then I will misspell my own name because I don't give a shit. Like, that's the last part of the equation, and I couldn't care less.
Yes, also the crop. If we're talking design, I would mention that the crop of my name is not equidistant to the crop of your name.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I can't tell because I'm on the Zoom screen, and it's always like a little bit cropped to fit in the whatever.
Anyway, speaking of things no one gives two shits about.
I just feel like 3 millimeters more central to the podcast than you do.
Yeah, that's fair too. Anyway, what do the people have to say, Keith?
Well, let me say, Phoenix, of course, chimed in, and we heard from Scott from The Perfect Show, and one of us, who wouldn't be me, commented on the wrong comment. So it's pretty funny. So Phoenix said, did you see the dedication at the end of the episode? Associate producer Kimberly Dean had died, sadly, and it was dedicated to her. And he says she was the same age as you guys. Spooky. So she died at 41. That's very sad. And Scott from The Perfect Show wrote, laughing very heartily as you discuss the remixes so seriously. Great show, guys. Love it. Now, my good friend and co-host Mike Indeglio commented very seriously and heartfelt.
On the remix
I did not
comment?
see that, but now I feel sort of a sort of way because you were really. But of course, you commented on that on The Perfect Show on laughing heartily as you discussed the remixes so seriously. I did not see that, but now I feel a sort of way. So.
Oh man, the day Keith and Mike just canceled themselves. This is it.
This is the segment where Keith and Mike pointed at each other's mistakes.
Yeah. Which was the segment we should have been doing all along. Really.
It's like the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, folks, if you would like to point out our mistakes, how would they do it, Mike?
Well, it's very easy, Keith. They can go ahead and write us an email right down below, outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, or if you're lazy, like us, apparently, just comment down below.
Yeah.
He checks the comments. He will respond to you. Perfect show. People that, like listen to us for some reason will talk to you. We'll
and Mike will respond to somebody else's comment on your comment.
Check us out on the old social medias at Out of Practice Podcast. And hey, while you're on the internet doing things that I'm sure are not nefarious in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and join the jury. No one does. But if you listen to the podcast, and guess what? Turns out people do listen. Let us know that you are listening and what you think, even if you're seasons behind. But then I guess you wouldn't be hearing this. I'm not getting into the details. Just leave a jury thing so that we can fool the algorithm to make people think that they like us. Fair?
Fair enough. All right. Well, let us now do something we have been teasing for about 6 weeks now.
That's true. We have.
And at this point, I don't even remember what I have to say about it. So I'm going to make Mike go first in a segment we call
Back in time. True crime.
Keith, I generally, the Back in Time true crime is on a whole different thing, so I gotta do a whole thing about it. You're giant, and it's not really.
Well, you know what? I don't think it matters as much because we've already talked about the case a little bit, but we wanted
this is wrong. That looks terrible.
Oh, I'm duplicated. There's so much wrong with this.
So many things are wrong with it, but
everything is wrong on the screen right now. It's very entertaining.
It's kind of interesting. No, but why I even put it up there was so that when I'm doing the edit, I can know when it happened. Wait till we get to this day in the world, and that all happens again. Anyway,
cool.
We were talking about the Hulu A&E docuseries that is now hosted on Hulu about the Lacey Peterson trial. And I guess the long and short of it is what it's really about is it does recount the events of the trial, but it talks about sort of the media's role in basically telling the tale, convicting Scott without really any information and making assumptions and presenting a timeline of events and witness testimony that is loosely based on fact and kind of taking out of context some of the testimony of the eyewitnesses and such. And I think we've danced around the subject a little bit, or in our prepping for this, or in our teasing of it in the past couple of weeks. And what I really came away with for me, I found it to be a little long in the tooth, as some of these series are, a lot of filler and retreading ground as they do episode to episode. But what I really took away with it fascinating was that, first of all, I was hook, line, and sinker on I didn't really watch the trial so much, so I just took what I got from the news, and I assumed this guy was dead to rights and that they had all of this evidence. And I was like, well, I'm with Nancy Grace. Screw this cat. I'm glad and I was celebrated when he was convicted and got what he deserved. Now, on the retread, what I realize is that, a lot of this is taken from how people want him, and we've talked about this in the practice, which is why it's interesting, think he should have reacted when the police interviewed him, when the trial was happening, when he gave statements. And his quote-unquote lack of remorse, which could be, and I'm not going to come down one side or the other, could be trauma, could be shock, could be just his pathology, psychopathy, excuse me, and say, well, he's not sad enough, so he did it. Because at the end of the day, there is zero DNA evidence linking him to this murder. And in our criminal justice system, if there's no forensic evidence, there's no forensic evidence. That means everything's circumstantial. I'm not saying there isn't circumstantial evidence, but a lot of the prosecutor's case is based on a timeline, based on one eyewitness whose information has been sort of refuted and rebutted. And so there's been enough shown that it turns out Scott looks like he's headed for a new trial, in which case, hopefully, he will be able to present a more a defense without as much. Well, he won't get that. But I think this, as much time has passed, I think maybe he'll hopefully get a more fair trial. And look, if they can present more evidence, perhaps he'll be found guilty again. But they did take the death penalty off the off the table. But anyway, Keith, I think my takeaways are, one, I need to do my due diligence before I just buy into hysteria, and two, this is they were able to sort of smoke and mirrors an ironclad case out of all circumstantial evidence, and they got an assist from the media.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I think it's very clear that he was not given a fair trial by any shape at all, that the investigation was sloppy and myopic, that it seems, there is almost no evidence whatsoever that he did this, and he was convicted because he was a douchebag, and because he was.
He had an affair, yeah.
He very well may be a douchebag, and he very well, and people didn't like the way he emotionally behaved. Well, sorry, there's a lot of douchebags I know who emotionally behave weird, who aren't being convicted. So, yeah, I'm very happy he's getting a new trial, because that was an egregious mistrial of justice. That said, I don't know that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I just know that what he was convicted on was utter garbage. And speaking of utter garbage, I just like to say this, and I'm actually glad that this documentary gave a little bit more context as to why Nancy Grace is the way that she is, in that she was a victim of a crime, and her fiance was murdered, which I understand why that would motivate her to have the worldview that she does and become a prosecutor. So I have some empathy for how she got there, but her behavior then and up to today, she's a walking dumpster. She's a walking, talking dumpster.
That's the thing, man. Even presented with the facts of this documentary, she doubles down. And here's a person who's been a prosecutor and claims to
care about justice.
Yeah, to understand that, in the event that, because I believe it's brought up in the documentary, if I'm not inventing this, and if I am, then I'll take credit for it, because we've talked about it on the show all the time. In the event, especially in circumstantial cases, in the event that this person is not the guy, all right? The prosecutor's resources, then the DA and the prosecutors their resources go into convicting this person, and all search for any other person who might have actually committed the crime and continuing to commit crimes if they are a serial offender.
Yeah.
There are no resources, right?
No.
And the other kind of tacit crime that gets in that event, and once again, I am not lobbying that Scott is innocent, because I just do not know that for a fact, but I believe that he was given a bad trial and should have access to a fair trial. But I will say that not only are those resources not only not given to the ongoing investigation, because there is no ongoing investigation, they think they got the guy, but there's a tacit crime being perpetrated against the victim's family, because the DA convinces them that we got the guy, and the case, even though there are these holes, that's just bullshit, that's just the defense pulling at straws. You don't need to look anymore. You have your closure now, and you don't and that is a crime, because it's false closure for a family who if they are seeking justice, aren't necessarily getting it.
Yeah. And yes, I completely agree. I think it's a very good point about the miscarriage of justice happening on both ends, because if he didn't do it, then continue, not following up on the leads, about those robbers who lied about what night they robbed the place, and they ignored it because it fit the timeline they wanted. That's egregious. The other thing that really stuck out to me, and this actually applies if you zoom out to more of the legal world, and that is jury selection. Because especially in the last episode, you find out, speaking of like walking dumpsters, the people on this jury were just horrible.
Yeah, they interview them.
They interview them, and they're like, yeah, we were gonna take him down no matter what, blah blah blah, and just egregiously unfair, and happily and like proudly so. That, yeah, okay, set that aside. The real issue here is because it was a death penalty case, they could only select from jurors willing to kill somebody. So you have to self-select for people, willing to do it, but also in favor of the death penalty in general, which weeds out people like Mike and I who are against the death penalty. And so therefore you're self-selecting for a jury with a particular worldview, with perhaps a political view, because that has become so politicized. So you're not getting a jury of your peers. You're getting a jury of your peers who happen to believe in the death penalty and are willing to apply it. Now, that's not the whole peer system. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is a miscarriage of justice and another reason against the death penalty, because you're setting yourself up for a tainted jury pool by law, by definition, by the way it's set up.
It's math, right? Because in voir dire, each side, and remember, you're supposed to be a jury of your peers, and you're supposed to be getting equal and fair defense. And so, if the selection of the pool now is only people who believe in the death penalty, well then, if you're a defense attorney going through voir dire and you're trying to find people who believe in the death penalty, but have the empathy to not be biased on the case and hopefully try to work out the machinations to who might kind of give your guy a fair trial, you're working uphill, which is not equal, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not equal, and you're, I don't know what the numbers are. It's probably different then than it is today. The percentage of people who believe in the death penalty in the country. I don't know, is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? I don't know. But if you cut your jury pool in half like that, you've already tainted the whole system. All right. Anyway, so I recommend the documentary. It is a little long, but I was hooked and I found it fascinating. And I know that, Jillian and I spent hours discussing it.
I would say that having finished it, it is... Though I do enjoy, I believe it was 2020 on ABC who did like a 1 hour, pretty concise distillation of this. But that viewpoint on that is much broader than zooming in on these sort of like inconsistencies. So if you are interested, even remotely in this conversation, it is worth a check out. In fact, you could probably jump around in it if you wanted to, and
you can find it on Hulu. The series is called The Murder of Lacey Peterson, produced by A&E in 2017.
And it sounds like that new trial could be as early as next year. So it might come up again.
Yeah, and as we go through season 7 of The Practice, all of these events are happening in real time. So it's an interesting second screen view for us working our way through The Practice. All right, now it is time for us to work our way back in time to the time that this docuseries takes place in and answer the question, if you weren't watching Nancy Grace spout bullshit onto your screen on the Lacey Peterson trial, what were you doing?
This day in the basement.
We took up a lot of time there, so I'll be real brief here. 2003, this is when we were doing our last semester agent showcase. I already talked about this on the show and how I kind of got screwed, but I did get to do a Sondheim piece, which is one of the only times I've gotten to do Sondheim in my life. So this is great. Once again, a time period where I'm growing into an age where I hope that I get the opportunity to do some more Sondheim moving forward in any arena. But I also remember that during a rehearsal at this point, not for this, but for another class I was having, I was wearing an earring. And I remember it was a period piece I was doing, I think something from On the Town. And a teacher just laid into me and was just like, you have to remember, regardless of how good your work is, your talent is, or your preparation is, the details matter. And if you show up to an audition or to a performance and you've got something anachronistic going on, that's on you. And like, that was it for the day. I got no more work, which is a little heavy-handed and I think a little stupid, but something to learn. You know what I mean? That the details do matter, and that there you go. That's what I remember from it.
That's interesting. The details matter. I don't know if that detail matters because you're also probably not wearing a full costume and makeup and lights. And an audition is a proof of concept. I'm sure that were I directing that piece, I had the vision to imagine removing the earring and then going out on stage. But I get it.
Still,
Anyway.
I guess what it did for me.
I got your back. 2003.
100% agree with you. What it has reminded me to do is last looks all the time before I go on stage and do anything. So,
well, yeah, fair enough. As I certainly have gone out on stage with multiple times. I believe I was playing Michelangelo and walked out on stage with my Fitbit on. So that's
the worst I ever did was, I'm trying to remember. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't really that anachronistic, but I forgot in getting ready, because I'm guilty of getting very ready very late. I wait till like the 10 call. I've not often, on a few occasions forgot to mic up, which is pretty bad news. If you forget to I forget to put my mic on because I'm getting dressed so quick. Or
except for on our tour when you didn't have one.
Megaphone. I also have on a few occasions forgot to put my contacts in and just walked out on stage with my big ass stupid horn rim glasses, which doesn't usually work out pretty good.
We'll have to do a full episode of onstage mishaps. Those are fun. All right. So what I was doing in the basement, I actually had two things going on. One, I went to the Bronx Zoo with my college girlfriend, who in my memory, I didn't realize that we were still in contact as much as we were my first year in the city. And so I was like emailing her a great deal. She was still in contact with my family, and we went to the zoo. It was platonic at this point, but we were still like, like full on. We never recommenced. But it was, I had no idea we were in that much. That's a classy way to say it. I was surprised that we are still in contact. Also, speaking of auditions and such, this week I auditioned for some sort of summer stock theater. I don't know what theater it was, but I was emailing my family about it. And I got a call back, and I thought, I guess like some summer stock was doing Pimpernel and Titanic, interestingly, that summer. And I got a call back, and I thought, my God, I'm pretty much straight to Broadway. And I didn't get the gig. I don't even remember what theater it was, but it was, I think, probably my first callback. I was excited about it.
Keith, as an aside, I have to say this real quick. I've actually done pretty good, though we joke about not feeling old. Like, I feel pretty good. I look pretty good. I feel all right. So, not our Titanic. The actual time I did Titanic again, and I actually played Barrett instead of understudying it. You know how there's like a little kid in the show, right?
Yes, I do remember.
So the second time when I did it, the little kid, his name was Joey, was an actual little child, like a child. And last night, I was flicking through the Instagram. He is a cover. He went on as Frankie in the Off-Broadway Jersey Boys. And I was like,
great.
I am an old man.
Oh.
That he grew up. Subsequent to like me, because that's when I was like really auditioning for it. Subsequent to that, I've now, so much time has passed since like my prime that he has grown into an adult and playing that part on Broadway, which is pretty insane to me. I was like, last night, I was like, well, awesome, congratulations, send him a nice thing, but I'm an old man.
I had the same experience on when I did Les Mis. The little Gavroche is now like a pretty successful actor here in the city. He was like the lead in the Cruel Intentions tour, and it's just like, are you kidding me? Such a nice kid. So I'm so sorry, Mike. Can you give us a very quick rendition of Filings and Subpoenas, because we just got one live.
We got a live?
We got a live one.
Filings and subpoenas, filings and subpoenas.
I deserve that. So I got a live filing and subpoena here on my phone from my wife, who is upstairs and has no choice but to hear some of what we're saying, and heard me talking about
your ex
contact with my ex. And she said, in quotes, recommenced. You're such a fucking dork. And then in all caps, did the nookie is what you're looking for.
This is, hopefully I am audible to her because I want to publicly state my love and affection for Keith's wife. Our wives are the best part of this podcast.
Oh, by far. Our wives and our cats are the best part.
Yes.
No question. Hilarious.
Well, Keith, since you interrupted, shall we recommence with the segment we were going to do in a little something we call...
It's time for the Out of Practice podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Okay, folks, we are talking about March 10th, 2003. And of course, we were listening to what is clearly, undeniably, the demo we're hearing, In the Club by 50 Cent. The local Burlington Free Press talked about US/France vie for allies because we are mere days away from the beginning of the Iraq War. As we were searching for allies, and the rest of the world was like, guys, this is stupid. Don't do this. You're wrong. Boy, they got turned correct. All right, so the top movie was Bringing Down the House with Steve Martin and Queen Latifah, which took in $31 million. Which brings us to the world's most important segment, a segment we call...
It's time for sports ball.
The Boston Bruins dropped a game in overtime to the first-place Ottawa Senators. Grosek fought future Bruin Shane Knighty, and the overtime goal was set up by future Bruins captain Zdeno Chara, who is still playing today and beat the crap out of a Nashville Predators player this week. The Flyers also lost in overtime 2-1 to the Capitals.
I think it needs to be mentioned, Keith. That a young Mike Indeglio, at 22 years old, was, in fact, this should have been my This Day in the Basement. Oh my God, I blew it. So I got a phone call from my good friend Tina at this exact date back in 2003. And
Tina,
like, hey,
who cast me on Retrotech.
Yes. And she said, hey, I'm going to be in a music video. Would you like to join me? I need to bring a guest. It says bring +1. So I said, all right. So I showed up. She goes, just wear something like really like kind of hip-hoppy, like an oversized sweatshirt. So that's what I did. So we get there. And my friend Tina is very like, she's like, I would say, I mean, there used to be a term you were allowed to say. It was called ethnically ambiguous. She has a very vibe, like a multicultural vibe to her, and very hip hop. And we get there. Long story short, they were doing an episode of Top of the Pops. If you don't know, it's like a European Dick Clark kind of thing, I guess. And 50 Cent was doing a live performance of In the Club for Top of the Pops. No kidding. And guess who was there? Two white people, Mike and Tina. But Tina's looks cool, so they let her be in the video. And they said, if you could just stand in the back of the crowd and put your hood on. So if you were to like forensically dissect, maybe it's on the internet somewhere, the Top of the Pops performance of In the Club, somewhere in the audience is 22-year-old Mike Indeglio.
Oh my God.
And he lip sank to that song about 12 times, 12 takes, and it aired. So it's somewhere.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Is it online?
Hell yeah, it is.
Well, guess who's there? This guy, somewhere. I'm in a blue sweatshirt, I think.
Oh my God. Somebody out there, Phoenix Jorge, Mike Indeglio, you better find yourself in that video, and we're going to show that next week, because what the hell? Why wasn't
I can't believe that, well, the memory just it's interesting that neuron didn't fire, but it did right then.
Well, but here's the thing. This was the top of the charts for several weeks, so we still have some time yet for you to have your chance.
That was actually an important time because my wife's in the other room, but that was like when me and my friend Tina were like, maybe we're more than friends. Turns out, no.
Okay, well, wow, that was eventful.
A journey, yeah, a journey.
That was a journey.
What do we do now?
We're gonna journey forth with.
I'm a human being. God damn damn it! My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
It's time to talk about the damn episode!
Okay, we are talking about The Practice, Season 7, Episode 15, Choirboys, written all by himself by series creator David E. Kelley and directed by veteran director Dwayne Clark, who, folks, it is time to tip the cap. This is his final episode of The Practice of 7. Goodbye, Dwayne Clark. Thank you for your service, which brings us to one important question that I always ask really slowly because I can never find the bumper. There it is.
Orange Mike.
What is that supposed to mean?
He's looking great.
What's your
He's
problem?
looking fabulous.
Is this what happens to women when you insert your
You
penis?
left a little white around your eyes.
What?
What?
Does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
I don't know, Jimmy. Speaking of not knowing what happened, there was a previously on here, and I was like futzing with the Firefox because we've been having some issues with Keith here in the episode and all kinds of stuff, and so in working on it, I didn't hear the previously on. So I would have had a clue.
You shouldn't know.
Yeah, it had something to do with Lindsay and like a case she was working on. I think it was like that weird guy, like one of the more recent weird guys who Lindsay got off, even though she shouldn't have taken the case. And then like at the end, she's like, "Oh, is he going to kill me or somebody else?" Maybe. I think that was what it was. So, in this episode of a Shark Jumpy, The Practice, Bobby finds his religion again and goes back to church. But it just so happens on his first mass back from church, Keith, the choir loft collapses.
Oh,
and in
no.
collapsing, it kills a person. And Bobby has to defend the church against the murder charge of murdering someone who was squashed by the choir. I mean, if that doesn't sound like a Shark Jumpy episode, I don't know what does.
Oh, I like it. I mean, if it were Ally McBeal, it would be like...
Well, we've been getting McBealy here and there.
We have been getting a little McBealy. Yeah, no, that would be... Yeah, okay. Well, that's... All right. And it doesn't sound super sexy to me.
Well, it turns out that the person who got dead, when we see her in the coffin, and I mean, despite ourselves, we're like, she's dead sexy.
Okay, well, we've taken it into a necrophiliac direction.
No, we don't want to do anything about it. We're just commenting that they did a very good job in presenting the body.
Well, technically, the word means is attracted to. It doesn't say you do anything about it. So very technically, by the definition of the word, I think you've just made a statement.
Keith, you know what? Sometimes you look at a Van Gogh, and look, the painter's been dead for years and years, but it doesn't mean it's not a beautiful painting. Shall we recommence?
Do not recommence with the corpse, Michael.
If you would like to recommence with our dying podcast, easy to do. Simply find our stiff commentary on your podcast listener of choice. Hopefully by the end of the episode, neither Keith or I will be divorced, though it's, I suppose, highly possible at this juncture.
We need a Mike Keeps Digging bumper.
Never has saying, join us for the oopsies been more appropriate, because I'm finding myself feeling that way quite often. We'll see you soon. And we are back, baby.
We are indeed. We have just watched The Practice Season 7, Episode 15, Choirboys. And now it is time to remind you what just happened in your ears, because we just listened to it together in a segment we call
2, 3, 4. Mike has
You're
30
really gonna have to
seconds
send me the real
remember
bumper
what just
someday.
happened on the show.
Guys.
Segment.
Yeah, it's true.
Segment.
So, listen, there's two cases here. We got a serial killer potential. His mom says he didn't do it, but he might be banging his mom, so we don't really know. But then he maybe sends a letter to Helen and like knows a lot about what happened. So he gets off. He's not guilty, so we don't know. Also, Lindsay's old client who admits to killing some little girl. Lindsay knows where she is, but she doesn't tell. And so they're just waiting out in prison to see what happens next week. So are we, it turns out.
Yes. And could you, maybe do that again, but just in fewer syllables?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. How about a segment we call...
Thanks so much.
Killer's gonna kill. One's a murder choir boy. Lindsay did not tell.
Yeah. All right. Well done. Will there be consequences to that? Stay tuned. For the rest of us, stay tuned for a fake award show that has a bumper that begins like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, Jackie, they're a fake award show that begin with the highest of notes. Like a fine wine, it gets better every year. Let's MVL, baby.
So, despite multiple sexual innuendo, despite a pretty blatant threat on the DA's life, somehow Eugene Young does his thingity thang and gets this Tom Welling lookalike off that murder hook. Does he endanger Helen in the process? Maybe, but then he does some Eugene bouncer moves and he's like, don't fuck with her. So I feel like she's good. So I'm going to go Eugene Young here.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. He got the resolution that Michael Peterson should have had. We don't know that he didn't do it, but the case they put up was pretty flimsy, and despite the media's circus, was able to get an acquittal. So I'm not sure if I necessarily buy it, but on the grounds of the case, he got the win he should have gotten. So congratulations, Eugene Young, on your MVL. Coming up next, guys, it is time to dance. Let's all applaud as we begin.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
I just went to the gym for the first time in a month, so I didn't really have the get up and go to get that dance done in double time.
This is my gym.
Interesting. Yeah, so I think I said all about it during the episode, so you should go and actually listen to the episode. So I think that the sort of psychopath Oedipus killer that we met this week, potential killer, but acquitted of said killings. What was his name?
Matthew Settle.
Excellent bad guy performance with enough, in my opinion, potential that he's not the guy. He's either just riding that line, or he's like the craziest psychopath of all. So either way, I thought a really balanced performance and got just the notes that the director was looking for. So I think he gets that oopsie pretty clearly.
Yeah, I mean, he gets my oopsie. I agree with you there. I did not see a heck of a lot of ambiguity about whether or not he is a, criminal, because he seemed pretty criminally to me. I'm not sure who did the killing, whether it was him and his mom, and he knew about it and is covering up for his mom, but one of the two of them did the killing, and he's definitely a part of it. So, nonetheless, however you read the character, it's a great performance. So, congratulations to our new friend, Matthew Settle, for your very first OOPSY Award. Now it's time for...
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Eugene had to do Eugene. Jimmy did Jimmy. Helen did Helen. Everybody kind of did their thing. The only person who sort of I'd like to give the shout out to both Kelly Williams and Claire is the lawyer's name.
Yes, you're halfway there.
And it's right there. Give me the first syllable. I don't know. What is it?
Make your best guess.
It's Claire and Kathy.
And her last name?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, you got to be joking that Keith just froze. Y'all, Keith just froze. The episode was going so well. Keith has frozen. So while he maybe comes back, I'm going to just talk at his frozen face because it's amazing. Oh, man. Keith's frozen face. He's called me back. I'm going to pick it up because it is incredible what his frozen face was. Oh, my God. I hope he pops back on.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm here.
Anyway, the oopsie here is going to go to Kelly Williams. I think that she had to play the most sort of the most levels. So definitely Kelly Williams is going to get that oopsie. But now we're going to try to get Keith back.
I'm here.
On,
I'm here, baby. I'm here.
All right,
I'm here.
Keith, I can't wait till you see the frozen picture.
Great. I'm really happy.
It is one of the best screenshots of you of all time. I think me and the viewers and the listeners have decided that Kelly Williams, if everybody decides, not just because I can't remember the other girl's name, but Kelly Williams gave the most leveled performance.
Yeah, no, I thought she did a really excellent job. I think the, especially when viewing the body and dealing with all of the scene chewiness of the situation, somebody had to ground it in some real live, human emotion there. And I think she did a really excellent job. So congratulations, Kelly Williams, on your best actor. All right, our newest member of the 700 Club.
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Tom Brady wins so much that even I was almost becoming a fan and being wow, it's just crazy how he just pulls it off. And then last night it re-jumped to the shark for me. I mean, everything, it was a game that any other team's playing, I would have been oh, I love this football game because there's such high drama, right? There's a chance that Buffalo might win this game after a huge comeback. But then I knew that was not going to happen. And that effing Tom Brady was going to throw that 700th touchdown and win again. And that's what happened. So it's not even interesting anymore. He's even taken the drama out of football by being so damn magical. But luckily, I get my buddy Keith here to Photoshop him into a creepy rocking chair in this week's winner of the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. Tom Brady rocking in a creepy rocking chair, maybe next to a dead body?
Tom Brady in a creepy rocking chair, maybe next to a body, wins the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. There's a lot of alleged issues with Tom this year. I haven't photoshopped any of them. This is going to be a fucking nightmare when it's time for the oopsies.
Maybe you just have to do one Photoshop that incorporates all of those ideas.
I don't think that's going to be any faster. just means everything's very small.
Maybe it's just one picture of Tom Brady. You do what you do, you buddy.
I'm gonna do me. We'll see. It depends on where the finale lines up. You know, the holidays will be over. I'm assuming by that point I'll have a little time. We'll see. But before I go into Photoshop Apocalypse, it is time.
Photoshopalyx? Forget it. Can just go on. Forget me.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
So, you know, what really does help the episode is that to be continued at the end, because as a setup for like the resolution for Lindsay, and as, you know, we want to see what's going. As Keith mentioned, like no one's under the impression that, hey, did you put my clothes in the dryer by any chance? Yeah. Sorry. Welcome to my marriage, everybody.
Wow, life
Thank
finds
you so
a
much.
way.
I appreciate it, and I love you for that.
Wow. That sounded so sincere.
It is sincere. I love my wife, and she does a lot of things for me, and I do a lot of things for her, Keith. It is a collaboration. Oh boy. Hello.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Tux. Oh, look at that guy. Charlie has still not moved from his cat cave.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I got a man cave, I don't leave very often. So,
No.
The to be continued, and plus, you know, like regardless of how it plays, we know that something else is going to happen, either to Helen or we're going to find out something else with the mom and son. Like they're too good of baddies to like not to waste. So it's a good setup. I think the Lindsay case is the more interesting of them to me, because that moral ambiguity that we started to explore about privilege and what her sort of what she's required to do, what the law asks of her, and then it extends to sort of her professional pride and like the whole reason she does what she does, because Eleanor said, the judge gave her an out there at the end. He ordered her, and which she could have taken the easy road and just like kind of given him up. But then what does that do to her credibility? What does that do to her potential clients? You know, it opens up a whole other bag of worms. So I find it really compelling and interesting because, as you kind of heard in real time, my visceral reaction is fuck that guy, tell everybody where the little girl is, and give him up. That's my visceral reaction as a person who like hates hypocrisy and wants justice served. However, you know, then you realize in real time that like if no one is going to like go to the cell, the holding cell for you, quite literally, to keep your privilege, like what do you got, right? So it's really compelling to me. I want to see where we go and how David E. Kelley is going to play this out. The other cases is I feel like it's lost a little on me only because we've had so many good bad guys and so many sort of scene chewy villains, and there's only so many ways you can look at it. So I like the way it was presented. I like the sort of Bonnie and Clyde, potentially Oedipus killing mom and son. I like what it could be, but I also have grown a little leery / weary of the almost hyperbolic, cartoonish baddies, right? And like, so I liked the performances. I thought that they were like grounded in a reality and they weren't too over the top, even though they really could have been. All things considered, however, like we've with few exceptions, we really have never really stuck the landing with a lot of these bad guys. So I don't have a ton of faith that we're gonna like get somewhere really compelling with them. So I mean, as a freak of the week type thing, you know, it's like it didn't. What it lacked was like any sort of. I guess the fact that they were found not guilty is more the fact that they didn't have any real true evidence, like nailing them to the wall, right? Is that aside for the one key witness, right? There was no forensic or any other evidence. So
no, it's all implication, yeah.
So I mean, I find the resolution at least to be satisfying. I mean, I guess the wrinkle here is the threat to Helen. I don't know. It didn't do a lot for me. You know, outside of the performances, it didn't like compel me as much as the Lindsay in tag team with the Lindsay case. All in all, I'm pretty interested to see where it's going as an episode on its own. I like the Lindsay stuff. I think it's a solid 8.21 spare tires for me.
Okay, that's pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've been thinking about this episode, especially the second time going through it. There's a lot of interesting elements here that I feel like this is the trashy version of several things, but stuff that we've trod before. Right, because like I think you're right. The most interesting element here is the exploration of privilege, and how does it apply? When does it apply? Where does your morality come into it? So on and so forth. But we just did this with Jimmy. Like Jimmy
that's
did
very true.
Like literally went through this whole thing, and in a sort of a less pulpy way. That this episode is. You know, like the Oedipus thing and the serial killer and the, you know, again, you know, staring at the body and this is sort of like the trashiest version of all of these stories. So it's not really aimed that high in terms of its audience or what it's trying to say. It's just sort of, it's like the Desperate Housewives version of The Practice here. It's not the Ally McBeal. It wasn't silly. It was just kind of trashy. Now, that said, is it enjoyable? Sure, I found it enjoyable, and I think we got some good performances out of Matthew Settle and the rest of the folks here. It's just ground that's been trod before and retrod, and you know, Settle even looks like the guy that Lindsay shot, the Hannibal Lecter guy. Like, there's a lot of, you know, fine, all right. It's entertaining enough, but it's not good. I think
it's also stupid that like, why couldn't they commit to like the Lindsay does corporate law stuff? Like that was what she left to do. Like, why did it didn't last at all. We went right back to the crazy criminal shit.
Well, and now, you know, we were just complaining about how many serial killers. Now we have 2 in the same friggin' episode. Like, it's just like, oh, God, okay, all right, again. Like, at this point, I'm almost, like, happy that it's sort of being played for trash.
Well, they have to get ratings, right? Like, if clearly the show is floundering. Clearly that is, I mean, I don't have to know the history to know that, like, these episodes, especially David coming in and writing this shit, that, like, they're in trouble.
It feels very 90s, like, suspense flick. You know, it's The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It's the whatever. Like, just like a whole bunch of disposable 90s, like, oh, like, you know, you thought you could trust your boyfriend, but you couldn't, sort of stories. So, I don't know. It's not good, but it's also not bad in the way that a lot of episodes have been. It's just kind of trashy. So, you know what? I enjoy trash sometimes. I kind of enjoyed this episode, but I'm not going to give it as high a score. I'm going to give it a, like, 7.3.
All right. So we're going to go, like, mid to upper mid 7s on the average.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, folks, we have only one more thing to do. I think it's fairly obvious. Mike, talk us through the Easter egg.
Is it fairly obvious?
If you know your cinematic history and you referenced the director previously already.
Oh, it's Norman Bates. Okay.
It's Norman Bates.
Yeah. Okay. In the Rock. Oh, that's pretty clever. And is it over? Whose face is it over?
He's just lurking in the background creepily.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
see?
Well, there you go. We did
Norman
it.
Bates. It's Psycho.
Hey,
it's
that
Hitchcock.
means you know what I want? I know what I win?
Can't even move a finger.
We get to be done.
We get to be done. Okay, folks. Thank you for listening to our stupid little podcast. If you would like to join the conversation and point out any of the things that we got wrong, you can find us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on the Old People social medias, Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast. While you're there, do us a huge favor, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service of your choice. Join the jury. We're going to read what you write. You can write good, bad, nonsense, spam. We will read it happily and very much appreciate it. Speaking of people we appreciate, our founding sponsors who give us money for reasons. Jorge Navoa, Cloud Lover 69, Leanne Wrights, Jennifer Masanova, and Kari Kuhn.
You can give us money for reasons too. The links are in the show notes. You can give us a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. Help us support not just this nonsense, but our other show and our future shows here on KME Entertainment. Folks, we do appreciate it. We also would appreciate if you would like and subscribe. It does do us good. And I'll tell you what, in exchange, if you decide to go out there in public and take your laser sounds and kill as many people as you want with those laser sounds, or as many podcasts in that, we will not tell until we do on the next episode. Laser sounds.
Laser sounds.